Testing. Cool.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Today we'll be marking up a total of 6 bills, all of which were discussed at the subcommittee's legislative hearing on April 14th, 2016. I'll be supporting each of the bills. In accordance with committee rules, the subcommittee has reached out to the Congressional Budget Office seeking informal preliminary cost estimates for each of the bills being considered this morning. Many of these preliminary scores are only a range of potential costs because the subcommittee has still not received official cost estimates on all of the bills from VA nor from CBO. As is our normal practice, we will need to get official scores and identify necessary offsets before any of these bills go to the floor. And I look forward to working with the ranking member and other members of the subcommittee to find offsets that have the least impact on our veterans. I will also note that this is only a subcommittee markup, and there still may be changes made to some or all of these bills at the full committee markup. I ask unanimous consent to remove H.R. 5176 from today's agenda. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Since time is of the essence, I will be asking unanimous consent that after we mark up H.R. 3286, 4138, and H.R. 5174, that we then consider the rest of the agenda en bloc. Before the en bloc vote, I will recognize any member who wishes to speak on any of the remaining 3 bills being considered. I now recognize the distinguished ranking member for any opening remarks he may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for calling up the 5 bills on the agenda today, all of which improve employment and education programs available to veterans. I'm grateful to you for including the GI Bill Oversight Act, and regarding our change in action on H.R. 5176, the Success in Transition for All Veterans Act that Representative Radewagen supports. I understand we are trying to work out a procedural detail, and I appreciate your cooperation on that. In addition, I'm happy to join you and Representative Rice in sponsoring the Veteran Success on Campus Act of 2016, which codifies the successful and growing VSOC program for student veterans on campuses around the country. I take particular satisfaction in the cooperation between us on this bill. I know we've held hearings on it, and we both understand the value that these counselors provide. And I'm also very pleased to have Ms. Rice join us in this effort. It's a good thing we're doing. I want to express my appreciation for the bipartisan cooperation I've received from you and your staff in crafting these bills. This subcommittee has done a commendable job this Congress and created an extensive legislative record that we all can be proud of. We have done so with civility and respect, something I know the American people appreciate if they watched this subcommittee and the Veterans Committee. Such a contrast with what else goes on in the Congress. Mr. Chairman, I thank you and I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member Takano. I now call up H.R. 3286. The clerk shall report.
H.R. 3286, to encourage effective, voluntary private sector investments to recruit, employ, and retain men and women who have served in the United States military with annual presidential awards to private sector employers recognizing such efforts and for other purposes.
The bill was circulated in advance pursuant to committee rules. Without objection, the first reading is dispensed with. The bill is now open for amendment at any point. I have an amendment in the nature of a substitute at the desk. The clerk shall report.
Amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 3286, offered by Mr. Wenstrup of Ohio.
I ask unanimous consent that further reading of the amendment in the nature of a substitute be dispensed with. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Members, my amendment in the nature of a substitute would keep intact the base text of H.R. 3286, but would merely make minor changes following the feedback we received on this bill at our legislative hearing last month. My A&S would eliminate 2 of the medallion tiers that were originally in the bill so that there are only gold and platinum tiers. This would better streamline the administration of the program. I want to commend our colleague, Representative Paul Cook, for introducing this bill and for his support in drafting the A&S. I believe this piece of legislation is a great way for the Department of Labor to highlight and reward employers who go above and beyond to recruit and retain veterans on their payroll. Do any members wish to comment on my amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 3286?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Takano, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I and several other members of the committee on our side have co-sponsored the bill. I have personal affection for our colleague, Representative Cook. He is from my area of California. I think the amendment in nature of substitute is good legislation, and I recommend support for it.
I thank Mr. Takano. Since no other amendments were timely filed, the question now occurs on the amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 3286. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 3286 is agreed to. Since no other amendments were timely filed, the question now occurs on the passage of H.R. 3286 as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. I now recognize Mr. Takano for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move favorably to forward H.R. 3286 as amended to the full committee.
There's a motion to favorably forward H.R. 3286 as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and H.R. 3286 as amended is favorably forwarded to the full committee. I now call up H.R. 4138. The clerk shall report.
H.R. 4138, to authorize the Secretary of Veterans Affairs to recoup relocation expenses paid to or on behalf of employees of the Department of Veterans Affairs.
The bill was circulated in advance pursuant to committee rules. Without objection, the first reading is dispensed with. The bill is now open for amendment at any point. Mr. Takano, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I do wish to withdraw my amendment. That is correct. And this question.
Okay. An amendment was timely filed in accordance with committee rules. However, it is my understanding that the ranking member wishes to withdraw his amendment. Mr. Takano, is that correct?
It is correct.
Okay. Do any members wish to speak on H.R. 4138 at this time?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Takano, you're recognized.
While I respect the intent of H.R. 4138, and I do want to work with you and the majority to craft an alternative solution, I do oppose the bill as it is currently written.
Well, I thank the gentleman for his concerns. I do not agree at this time. We have asked the department time and time again to show us if they have the authority to recoup relocation expenses that they later find out were provided to the VA employee due to the employee's own ill-begotten means. We saw this quite clearly in the case of Ms. Graves and Ms. Rubens, and the vast majority of the public were shocked and disappointed that they were able to keep the hundreds of thousands of dollars paid out to relocate these individuals for moves they self-designed. I would also note that this language is based off of the process set up by H.R. 280, a bill that would give VA the ability to recoup bonuses, which passed this committee and House favorably by voice vote. Do any other members wish to comment on 4138?
I have further comments, Mr. Chairman. As I said, while I do respect the intent of this bill, I do want to work with you to craft an alternative solution. I do oppose this bill as it's currently written. H.R. 4138 would provide the VA Secretary a new authority to direct repayment of relocation expenses for transferred VA employees if he or she deems it appropriate. Now, I understand the problem this bill is attempting to address. I do understand that. But I believe the VA already has the authority to recoup these expenses under general fraud statutes. It is my understanding that our staffs are working together to identify those specific authorities. I also believe this bill is unnecessarily punitive and singles out VA employees as having fewer rights than other federal employees. This policy would create a disincentive for qualified individuals to come to work at the VA. Finally, I oppose the bill's explicit prohibition on agency or judicial review of the Secretary's decision to recoup relocation payments. This bill gives the Secretary too much broad discretion and doesn't do enough to protect the due process rights of VA employees. VA is working hard to attract and hire thousands of qualified new employees who are committed to serving veterans and achieving the Secretary's goals for reform. I urge that we consider how to incentivize the VA to use its existing authorities when warranted, rather than create a reactionary and unnecessary new law. I'd also like to ask that the letter of opposition from the American Federation of Government Employees be entered into today's record. And I thank you, and I yield back.
No objection. Since no other amendments were timely filed, the question now occurs on the passage of H.R. 41.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
May I be heard?
Ms. Rice is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that I fully support the idea behind this bill, and I want to vote for it. What's happened with Kimberly Graves and Diana Rubens is outrageous, it's infuriating, and all of us want to see VA officials held fully accountable for their actions. But I can't support this bill in its current form. The language, I feel, is entirely too vague and suggests to me that it would give the Secretary the authority to recoup travel expenses from anyone he or she wants, for any reason he or she wants. I'd like to see this bill with stronger, clearer language explicitly stating that the Secretary should recoup expenses in cases of fraud and malfeasance and mismanagement, et cetera. So I'll be voting against the bill today in its current form, but as it moves forward, Mr. Chairman, I hope that we could work together to strengthen the language so that the recoupment authority cannot be abused, and so that VA officials who do commit fraud are held fully accountable. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your comments. Since no other amendments were timely filed, the question now occurs on the passage of H.R. 4138. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no.
No.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I ask for a recorded vote.
The clerk shall call the roll.
Chairman Winstrup.
Aye.
Chairman Winstrup votes aye. Mr. Zeldin.
Aye.
Mr. Zeldin votes aye. Mr. Costello.
Aye.
Mr. Costello votes aye. Ms. Radewagen.
Aye.
Ms. Radewagen votes aye. Mr. Bost.
Aye.
Mr. Bost votes aye. Ranking Member Takano. Ranking Member votes no. Ms. Titus. Ms. Rice.
No.
Ms. Rice votes no. Mr. McNerney. Mr. McNerney votes no. Mr. Chairman, the vote is 5 yes, 3 no, 1 not present.
H.R. 4138 is adopted, and I now recognize Mr. Zeldin for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we favorably forward H.R. 4138 to the full committee.
There is a motion to favorably forward H.R. 4138. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and H.R. 4138 is favorably forwarded to the full committee. I now call up H.R. 5174. The clerk shall report.
H.R. 5174, to make certain improvements in the laws administered by the Secretary of Veterans Affairs relating to educational assistance and for other purposes.
The bill was circulated in advance pursuant to committee rules. Without objection, the first reading is dispensed with. The bill is now open for amendment at any point. I yield to Ranking Member Takano.
Are we on an amendment here? Mr. Chairman, my amendment strikes Section 3 of the bill. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk shall report.
Amendment to H.R. 5174, the Veterans Education Enhancement Act of 2016, offered by Mr. Takano of California.
I ask unanimous consent that the formal reading of the amendment be dispensed with. Hearing no objection, so ordered. The ranking member is now recognized for 5 minutes to speak in support of his first amendment to H.R. 5174.
Mr. Chairman, my amendment strikes Section 3 of the bill. This section requires that the annual increases in living stipends for Montgomery GI Bill recipients, survivors, and dependents be rounded down to the next lower dollar amount. The principle here is what is important. It's just not fair to chip away at veterans' benefits to, quote, pay for, end quote, other veterans' programs, even if the round down does not appear to be much. The VFW opposes this round down, and I ask my colleagues to join me in supporting my amendment, and thank you, and I yield back.
I thank the gentleman for his amendment, but at this time, I must oppose its adoption. While I understand the ranking member's concern with the GI Bill COLA round down, this seems to be a common sense way to pay for the bill with the least amount of impact on veterans. Furthermore, in the past, this has been a non-controversial offset and, in fact, passed out of the House by voice vote last Congress with the passage of the Ruth Moore Act. Do any other members wish to comment on Mr. Takano's first amendment to H.R. 5174? Are there any other amendments to H.R. 5174 at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I have a second amendment at the desk.
The clerk shall report.
Amendment to H.R. 5174, the Veterans Education Enhancement Act of 2016, offered by Mr. Takano, California.
I ask unanimous consent that the formal reading of the amendment be dispensed with. Hearing no objection, so ordered. The ranking member is now recognized for 5 minutes to speak in support of his second amendment to H.R. 5174.
Mr. Chairman, my second amendment to the GI Bill Enhancement Act simply makes a clarification. Under current law, VA must go through a lengthy process to recoup overpayments of the housing stipend. Section 6 allows VA to circumvent this process and take overpayments out of the individual's next housing allowance payment. My amendment would clarify that the housing stipend may only be reduced if the student veteran drops below full-time student status. I ask for your support in clarifying the intent of this section. I thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Takano, and I will be supporting this amendment. Do any members wish to comment on Mr. Takano's second amendment to H.R. 5174? Hearing none, and since no other amendments were timely filed, the question now occurs on Mr. Takano's first amendment to H.R. 5174. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Excuse me. Yes, aye.
All those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Mr. Takano's first amendment to H.R. 5174 is not agreed to. The question now occurs on Mr. Takano's second amendment to H.R. 5174. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Mr. Takano's second amendment to H.R. 5174 is agreed to. Since no other amendments were timely filed, the question now occurs on the passage of H.R. 5174 as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. I now recognize Mr. Takano for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to favorably forward H.R. 5174 as amended to the full committee.
There's a motion to favorably forward H.R. 5174 as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and H.R. 5174 as amended is favorably forwarded to the full committee. I now ask unanimous consent to consider the following bills en bloc. H.R. 5175, the GI Bill Oversight Act of 2016, and H.R. 5178, the Veterans Success on Campus Act of 2016. Hearing no objection, so ordered. The clerk shall report.
H.R. 5175, to amend Title 38 United States Code to direct the Secretary of Veterans Affairs to disapprove for purposes of the educational assistance programs of the Department of Veterans Affairs, programs of education determined to have utilized deceptive or misleading practices in violation of Section 3696 of such title and for other purposes.
The bills were circulated in advance pursuant to committee rules, and I ask that the reading of the bills be dispensed with. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Before I recognize any other member who wishes to speak on any of the remaining bills on the agenda, I want to thank Ranking Member Takano and Ms. Rice for joining me in introducing H.R. 5178, the Veterans Success on Campus Act of 2016. VA's Veterans Success on Campus program is an important asset and resource to a student veteran's educational success, and I believe that it's vital that it be codified in statute to ensure the future prosperity and continuity of the program. Is there any discussion on the bills remaining on the agenda? Mr. Takano, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I strongly support these bills. I applaud H.R. 5178 to codify the successful VSOC program, and I'm happy to join you and Representative Rice as original co-sponsors. I also want to thank you for including H.R. 5175, the GI Oversight Act, in today's markup. Unfortunately, some schools aggressively market to veterans to gain access to their GI Bill benefits. Many of these schools offer programs of minimal educational value for the veteran at a high cost to the taxpayer. Such schools have been known to use deceptive or misleading marketing practices in order to convince veterans to attend their questionable programs. Current law prohibits GI Bill benefits for schools that utilize erroneous, deceptive, or misleading advertising practices. But while VA has recently begun to take notice of these practices, there are too many examples of schools that misled students but continued to receive GI Bill payments. Fortunately, the VA is not the only agency with concerns about this problem. Other federal agencies and states are starting to take action against these schools. The GI Bill Oversight Act requires the VA Office of the Inspector General to apply heightened scrutiny to a program of education if any federal or state agency has determined that the program used deceptive or misleading practices to recruit students. The Secretary would then look at the IG's findings, and if the program had engaged in deceptive or misleading practices, it would be disapproved for GI Bill benefits. I hope you will all support the bills here before us en bloc. Thank you, and I yield back.
Well, thank you, Mr. Takano. Since no amendments were timely filed, the question now occurs on the remaining agenda items. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. I now recognize Mr. Takano for a motion on forwarding our remaining agenda items to the full committee.
Mr. Chairman, I move to favorably forward the agenda items to the full committee.
There's a motion to favorably forward H.R. 5175 and H.R. 5178. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and H.R. 5175 and H.R. 5178 are favorably forwarded to the full committee. Summarizing today's votes, the subcommittee has voted to favorably forward H.R. 3286 as amended, H.R. 4138, H.R. 5174 as amended, H.R. 5175, and H.R. 5178 to the full committee. I ask unanimous consent that the committee staff be authorized to make technical, clerical, and conforming changes to the bills favorably forwarded today. Hearing no objection, so ordered. I thank the members for their attendance today, and the subcommittee is adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
We got through it. There's too many numbers.
All this.